Hello, everybody, and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona podcast where we play through Persona 3 Reload in real time, along with the in-game calendar dates. I'm Tom Marks, joined as always by Jonathon Dornbush. Jonathan, how are you?
I don't like the way my hair's sitting. I let it dry in the air when I took Loki out, and it's cold, but it's fine. I'm fine. It's all right. It's whatever. It's the end of the day. It doesn't matter what my hair looks like. I'm good. How are you doing, Tom?
I am good. This is the first time, it feels like in a month and a half, that we've recorded a podcast where neither of us is sick. I guess we need that update from last week. Did you get sick?
Well, the problem is I did eat a lot of lasagna before we recorded, so I might be like full sick, like too full, not feeling great. But
yeah.
No, weirdly, the night we recorded our bonus episode was the worst I felt. It was actually all uphill from there. Yeah.
Good.
So perfect timing for the audience, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you want to hear Jonathan think he's getting sick, make sure you go to patreon.com/takeyourtime and subscribe to hear the latest bonus episode. If it has not already gone up, it's probably already gone up at this point.
It is, yes.
Yeah, we talked about JRPG tropes, and we did what I like to call a thunder round. Basically, we've done lightning rounds on bonus episodes where we talk about things really quick. This was a longer talk about, things like the amnesiac protagonist and what we think about that sort of thing, and we hit a whole bunch of stuff. It was a really fun conversation, just sort of about what we do and don't like about RPGs in different ways, and specifically like recurring things in RPGs. That is up now. We've got our bonus episodes.
I was going to say, as is our other bonus episode from earlier in the month, where we blab about Pokemon TCG Pocket, which I am still playing every day, but yes.
Yeah, and we've got our bonus episodes planned for December already, so if you want to be involved in that, patreon.com/takeyourtime. And as always, we want to thank the people of the Palace Ruler tier over there on Patreon by doing our Confidant call-out. So I'll do that right now. Akechi is a Jelly Bean, Astral Clock Tower, Brody S, Cameron C, Claudia R, Dallas, Damon, Dan F, Danimal Lover 01, Default Titus, Dexter, I Kill Gods for Fun, Caitlin E, Keegan H, Matt Attack, Metaphor Refantasio out now, Michael V, Philip S, Programmer Sid, Sam K, Sarah M, Shade, and Willie Wang Wang. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Whether you support on Patreon or not, we really appreciate, regardless, all of the support. This week, I realized I skipped that part. We're talking about November 24th through the 30th. This is the last week before the next full moon, whatever that means, because I still don't know. We also, this week, are going to be talking about, so heads up, we'll tell you spoilery when we get to it, but we're going to be talking about the max rank confidants for a few different confidants this time. Kamiki, Tanaka, so the two, and Mutatsu, so the two night folk we're going to talk about, and then Kamiki, who's the second Sunday person after Maya, and we'll talk about those at the end, so if you want to skip around, if you haven't gotten there yet, you can do that, and we'll let you know. But we have a bit of free time this week because there was a little bit of a time jump. We had this job fair week thing where we were apparently scrubbing tables for 4 days straight, and so we have a little more time on our hands.
It's a really fun intersection of them trying to figure out the daily life thing versus the stakes of the other side of the world that goes on in a Persona game. And it is really funny that we're dozens of hours into this game, and it's like, well, you're going to be working a really random part-time job, and that's just really what you're going to be doing this week. It doesn't have an ulterior motive to it. That's just what you're doing. Yeah.
But like you've been saying,
yes,
it's getting to the end of the game. Things are ramping up. Stuff is happening, and as a result, we have not gone basically since Shinji died, or at least definitely since the last shadow was killed. We have not gone a week without a plot beat, something happening, and that it does happen in this episode as well. We get sort of a tease at this last day of some more stuff going on that is sinister and evil and all that jazz. So,
Tom, what if I told you this was the halfway point of the game?
I would believe you.
That's fair. Well, I won't say, but obviously we will need to plan for an ending at some point, so we'll talk at some
and
juncture.
we're also going to talk about Tartarus, I imagine, this week, because I did Tartarus this week because there's only like one free day before the full moon, and there were some people that got trapped and figured it was a good time to do it. So we can talk about a lot of that stuff. It's going to be, for a short week, we have a lot to dig into this week, and I'm excited to do so. We're also going to talk about, I guess, spoilers if you haven't hung out with Elizabeth the whole time, because we're going to talk about that too. But we'll get there when we get there. It's going to be a good time. But first, before we jump into everything, Jonathan, I think you have a couple comments you wanted to read out, and then I have my pop quiz.
We do. We've actually gone a few fair weeks without too many comments. Apologies to everyone. It's just been, with schedules and...
It's been weird. I'm sorry.
It's all good. So we do have obviously a lot I think we can catch up on through maybe the next couple of weeks. We'll see how next week itself actually goes. Maybe there's no full moon. We don't really know what's going to happen there. I do want to read one.
Yeah, I should give my prediction at the end. I have to think about what I think is going to happen and now.
That is, apologies. I didn't even put up a Q&A request this week just because we have such a backlog, and that is often one of those things before the full moon is like, what does Tom think? So we'll get there at the end as well.
Cool.
This one from a couple weeks ago from one of our confidant callouts, Matt Attack. I just wanted to read this because this was a sweet plug, but also just a fun thing they mentioned. They went, they listened to the show, both the original and the Persona 5 Strikers one, discovered the show as they were playing through, and then they decided to subscribe to the Patreon after hearing about our Metaphor bonus episode. And I imagine we'll talk about Metaphor maybe next month as well, given perhaps topics that are going on. And they said, I simply had to hear your thoughts on it while I was playing it live too. Looking forward to playing through that game. Maybe next summer, ? We have not discussed what 2 weeks look like, let alone then, but we appreciate the thought everyone has. Anyways, my question was, what do you think of the similarities between S.E.E.S trip to Kyoto and the Phantom Thieves trip there in Strikers? Like you, I played Strikers first, but it seems that the scenes there were designed as an homage to the scenes from the school trip. Did you have the same sense of deja vu that I did while playing through the school trip?
Yeah, because they also do the is that also where they do a bathhouse scene in Strikers, potentially?
I believe that's that same. I was going to double check if the bathhouse was the same, but yeah, there's such a clear, comparison there.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about that. That is definitely, it certainly could be an homage, or it could just be like a trope. I don't know necessarily, but it is, it's like, if it is an homage, I would not put it past them, because I really do like, we've talked about this on the show before, of like, I like how much this world is connected, but not. All the games, right, is they have these connections, but they're not really there. But I wouldn't put it past them to reference something like that, because we've already, in Reload, seen references to other games and in the series, and I like that a lot.
Kyoto's jail, for what it's worth, this will not mean anything if you haven't played Strikers, go play Strikers, but Kyoto's jail is the Cage of Wrath, if you remember it by name. If you don't,
not by name. I thought it was is it not the icy one?
No, that it's the one where they are. I believe it's with Zenkichi's big moment.
Yes.
Yeah. For a few other comments, Nick C said, if I had a nickel for every Persona game I've played with an awkward hot spring scene in a fancy Kyoto hotel, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Which is very true to that meme. It's
indeed
very funny that it happened. Sable mentioned, I did not know you could actually succeed at evading the girls in the hot spring. I failed immediately, and the boys were executed by Mitsuru. The next day, the girls proceed to ignore all of the boys. It's actually pretty funny.
Oh, that's okay. So it's not what I said, which was assuming it was written to be multi-purpose.
No, yeah, it apparently is a little bit different. It's Shade said the scene is actually a pretty major scene for Mitsuru, as the gag of her executing other characters is often brought up when she appears in spin-offs, like the P4 fighting games. And then a few people pointed this out, but just wanted to include it. John in the Patreon also said Ryoji is actually the only option for that day. there are no dating scenes at the end. Yes. John said, yeah, if you talk to Yuko at the end, she has different dialogue if you're dating her, but you can't really go on any dates on this trip.
Weird. Then they literally just let you miss that? It's not a choice thing. It is just whether you miss that scene or not.
Yes. Nick
Fascinating.
Nick said, I believe, it made sense that I didn't notice the scene. It's possible I didn't miss it, but it didn't come up for me because they believe it's predicated on doing the other hangouts with Ryoji.
Wild. That's so interesting to me. I made so many assumptions about that whole trip that are just like not accurate. Huh. Okay.
Makes sense. You live and you learn.
The thing. Yeah. This is the thing about scenes like this. This might be a hot take, but it almost feels rude in a game like this, in games like this, I should say, when there are little story things that don't matter a ton mechanically that you can full miss like that, because the game is so long. And having to replay the whole thing just to see like a 4-minute scene that doesn't matter. Like, I'm not advocating for like you shouldn't be able to miss anything, sure. Right? It's important that there are secrets to find. But when it's just like, hey, did you look at your phone that day or not to talk to Ryoji? I'm like, you're gonna make me play another 70, 80 hours just to see that scene with him on the riverside.
That's why we have the magic of YouTube these days.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have been the case as easily back even in the original P3 days. Obviously, YouTube was around, but like it wasn't as prevalent a thing in our lives like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
wild times.
Let's get into the actual week, shall we?
Yes.
Oh no, let's do the pop quiz.
Yes.
Speaking of the trip, my question, you said we didn't get any answers to this.
Not that I saw. Apologies if I'm missing anyone.
I made it too hard. I'm sorry. The question was, which of these rooms is your room? Because every door had a different name for all of the rooms in the entire hotel, or at least the two on second and third floor for the different hotel rooms that the students were staying in. And I asked which was your room, and then as a bonus question, which one was Odagiri and Hiraga in. The answers were, or the door names were Shobu, Tsubaki, Botan, Nanten, and Fuji. Did you have any idea here? Any guess? Blind guess?
Is Tsubaki yours?
No.
Okay.
Fuji is yours.
Okay.
Shobu is the one Odagiri and Hiraga are in, and the other three are just like some dudes.
Okay, I knew there was a door with an S that like sounded familiar, but okay. Shobu was
there. You go.
Got it. Well,
sorry, I made that one too obscure. It was very interesting to me that every single door had a name, and so I was like,
I swear, the first time I played this scene, I went through every door being like, surely there will be an incredible item hidden behind one of them.
I know,
like,
right?
I have to check because the best weapon.
And yet the incredible item is actually hidden in the hallway.
Well, the incredible
item,
we'll
talk about later.
I was going to say the incredible items are the gifts you could have bought your friend that you didn't buy Ken.
I didn't, but I did buy a random girl a soda, so, you know.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. And it got me laid. Anyway, let's talk about that in a minute.
All right. Well, yep. Let's go to the week.
It's going to seem like a very weird joke for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, but either you'll get there or we'll talk about it later.
Guys, big news for Tom. He finally...
Anyway.
Mazel tov, my friend.
Thank you. November 24th. Let's talk about it. This is the start of this 4-day period where you're doing this work-study thing. I don't remember exactly what they call it.
Career Experience Work Week.
That one, which basically just means you work at a place, which is super funny to me because like a fundamental mechanic of this game is that you can take a job at 3 different places.
And none of them are this place.
Yeah, none of them are this place. So you work at Wild Duck Burger for 4 days, and the entire time you are just cleaning. You're either cleaning tables or taking out the trash. It's super menial labor. You're not doing anything else. It's literally just the learning part of this learning experience is learning what a menial job is.
Sure. The company is hiring free labor when they could be hiring someone who actually needs the job and the money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a scene where you're doing that. You're kind of figuring out, you get started doing this, and then you have to go outside, and Tomochika is there, and he is also supposed to be at this job, but overslept. And he asks you, there's this funny little back and forth where he asks you to go into the restaurant and steal him a uniform so that you can bring it out, and he can just pretend he's been working this whole time, which is a wonderful harebrained high school boy plan. It's really on point in that regard. And then Miss Toriumi shows up, and as Miss Toriumi does, is just whining about having to take care of 2 classes at the same time.
She's sick of this.
Miss Toriumi, in this last leg of the game, has really become one of my favorite characters, because you start seeing some of the personality that you see in that social link come through in some of more of her conversations here, where she'll just like complain about teachers to students or be really real. That joke I made really early on about her being like, you gotta bring me a slice of cake, and it has to be homemade, no store-bought crap. Like, that I thought was weird at the time, and now I'm like, oh, that's just Miss Toriumi. That's great.
She has such strong, like, sitcom character energy from a show that no one watches anymore, but has become a meme and is like the only existing living entity of that show. Like, her one-liners and her stuff are just like, yeah, you are so sick of this, and it is very funny.
She's got a lot more personality than I thought she would.
Yeah.
But that's also just true of all of the teachers. All the teachers are really expressive in wonderful ways.
Yeah. This is, I'm trying to think, like, other than one teacher in P5, there's not really a lot who...
All the teachers... So what it is like, all the teachers in P5 have personalities. They have things that are their shtick, but none of them are characters. And
That's
I mean
fair.
that in the, like, have a larger than life. The teachers in P3 are, they are characters. They have a personality I could very quickly describe to you. Right?
Yes, yeah. And
there's a little less of that in P5.
Obviously not including a couple of the staff members of the school who become important to the plot in certain ways. Sure, yes. But
yeah, and I mean character, not like just literal character, but like they have, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Oh, that guy's a character. What a character that sort of use of the word.
Which, speaking of, I think is very much part of the scene, because this is not a short scene. This is a pretty
it's long.
Lengthy introduction that essentially has no real big impact. We do get a little tease at the end of kind of like, not to get ahead of you, but Junpei doesn't show up.
Yeah, that's the little tease, is that Miss Toriumi says, like, I can't believe somebody didn't show up, and now there's this, but that gets paid off right away when you do find out. You're talking to her, and she says, yeah, Junpei never showed up. Do you know what's up with him? And you have to be like, no, I don't know. Everything's fine. He didn't literally die and then was resurrected 2 nights ago. I don't know.
By the love of his life, who then died in his arms. It's
yeah.
Oh,
he probably just slept in.
Food poisoning?
Yeah.
Let's
Who
move
knows?
on. Yeah.
Miss Toriumi chews out Tomochika, tells him to go apologize. Another funny little moment that doesn't really amount to anything, but that's fine. It's just all flavor here.
Yeah.
You do find out Junpei was the one who skipped, and that is not surprising if you know what happened. But then you go back in and scrub tables, and you're like, boy, I can't believe I have to do this for 4 days. And then it's 3 days later. Fully skips the 25th, fully skips the 26th, and then you got to the end of your shift pretty much on the 27th is where it picks back up. And that's with you and Tomochika, or no, just you to start, and Ryoji shows up and asks if you can talk later and wants your opinion on a thing. And then Kenji also shows up, and he says, oh, I'll also ask your opinion. So you go and do like basically you take a break, you get some nuggets. I love that Kenji's like, I got some nuggets. You guys want some nuggets?
We have to take this break. It sounds like code for something, but no, it's just nuggets. Yeah.
It really does. So he wants to talk specifically about Junpei, who apparently finally showed up on the last day of all of this, and seems... This was a really interesting thing to me. It's not that he's just down. he's acting normal, but Ryoji can tell that he's sort of putting on the fun side of himself. He's forcing it, he says, which is both interesting because Junpei's not just a mess at the thing in public, and also interesting because Ryoji is sharp enough and knows him well enough at this point to know that, yeah, he's acting normal, but something is wrong. Which is, I don't know, I just found that like a fascinating little detail.
No, absolutely. I think that's totally fair, and I come away with it very much on Kenji's side of things here, which is, how dare this man? How dare he be handsome and considerate? What a jerk. Are you kidding me? Stop this. No. Come on. Be one, not the other. Not both together. Come on.
You can't be beautiful and such a good friend.
Yeah, it can't be like the Chris Hemsworth thing where it's like you're a beautiful human and funny. How dare you?
Right.
Yeah. I went to go see this Wicked film this weekend, Tom. I don't know if you heard about this Wicked movie. It's out there in the world. I just wanted to sound like an old man for a second. But Jonathan Bailey, beautiful human, dances wonderfully, really funny and charming. How dare he?
Is that the guy that plays the wizard?
The guy who plays the wizard?
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum?
Anyway,
you do know who Jeff Goldblum is, though, right?
I was just trying to mess with you. So Kenji basically says, he's fine. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, we're sitting there going, oh my God, he's so not fine. It's so not okay.
It's really obvious, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah, he says that what was this note?
I don't have your notes, so you'll have to tell me.
He says he's never... I can't remember the context of this, but Ryoji basically says like he never had someone like that before, in reference to Junpei.
Oh, well, he's talking both about the idea of like, or we give the idea that Junpei probably just needs some space, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And Ryoji is
yes.
like, oh, it's so great that he has someone like you at the dorm with him. And
yeah, they praise you. Yeah, that was the context. And so he says he's never had someone like who cares about him like that before. But then he kind of gets caught on that word before, right? He's like, wait, have I? Like, it's continuing this trend of like he doesn't really remember his past or know if he had one. We're just getting a lot of little hints about that throughout.
That's what happens when you're an amnesiac, and you can listen to more about that on our bonus episode.
He also says he doesn't like seeing you. Well, there's a moment where he's like, I really don't seeing you. I mean seeing my friends in pain. And so it's again that trend of he's weirdly attached to you already. He's weirdly invested in you as a friend already, and more so than is normal. So we get just some more hints about Ryoji, and you know, we've belabored this at this point about what I think about all
Yeah, you're totally stumped. You don't have a clue. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then you go home and you actually get an evening. So this is the first of, basically we have like 3.5 real days this week. So the shopping channel stuff arrives is one thing, because I love when this happens, when it's like, usually the shopping stuff channel arrives on Monday or whatever, but then this Monday was like 4 days delayed. So I love the idea that the shopping stuff channel arrived on time. You just haven't been home for 4 days. You've been scrubbing tables the entire time.
You've never left Wild Duck. They can see
Yeah.
you in the evening just at the same table over and over. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little interaction between Yukari, I think it is, and Ken, where Ken really wants to avenge Chidori because he hates seeing Junpei so down. And obviously everyone in S.E.E.S and at the dorm knows why Junpei is down and knows what's going on with him. And then you just get an evening. So what did you do with your evening?
I first went and used the veggie blog note to get my plants up.
Oh, and then you rewound?
And then I rewound and intensely thought about Fuka.
Well, okay. I did the dating site for Mitsuru, I think, this time, just because I wasn't sure where I was at with her. Yeah, mm-hmm. I know.
Better safe than sorry, I get it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Morning of the 28th, we finally get the phone call that I have been waiting for. which is that 2 humans have wandered into Tartarus.
It is funny how eager we are to have people be in trouble. It's like, man, when are those people going to potentially lose their lives in the bowels of the worst place known to man, except man doesn't know about it because it's evil and secret. So
we're like Batman.
Yeah.
Batman just sits in the Batcave waiting for people to get kidnapped.
A Batman-style Persona game.
Get out. Get out.
Go listen to our other bonus episode that was about other franchises we'd like to see like Persona.
Actually, I mean, this is a full tangent now. A comic book style game with the calendar system would work really well if you did it like as issues almost.
I think I said that in terms of, I couldn't think of another good one. Oh, Daredevil was my suggestion. I guess spoilers. Because you get kind of the day and night life of his. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a couple things that come up now.
Yes.
So if you check your map, you get exclamation points on the school if you bought sodas while you were in Kyoto. Did you do this?
I didn't do it this time because I forgot to buy sodas.
Because you...
Yeah.
But does that mean you're not going to get your platinum?
It means I have to rewind. I've thought about this. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I completely forgot to buy those. So
you have to rewind like a week and a half or something like that?
Yeah, I didn't want to put in the time. I might do it over Christmas break. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm laughing at you, but that's horrible.
No, it's fine. If that's... I don't know how I'm going to...
It's mean that there's a request that you get fully locked out of.
I just totally spaced on it. I should have been paying attention. Didn't even.
You just were not. That whole trip was a blur for
That
you.
trip really was a bad one for me, man.
Listen, you got Ken a souvenir and I didn't, but I think the scale has tipped the other way.
No,
now.
I would have rathered yours. I'd be fine to make that little kid sad. I need my trophies. Sorry, Ken.
So this is for people who don't know. There's a request to get a special rare kind of soda. You get a hint that there's somebody at the persimmon tree who loves rare sodas. You go to talk to that person, and they don't give you anything, but they're like, oh, I love this really good soda that's in Kyoto or whatever. And then when you go to Kyoto, there's a soda machine, and you can buy the sodas, but it's not the right soda. And then when you get back, and now you're done with the job thing, you can go to the persimmon lady again, and she will automatically say, hey, I want that soda. I'll give you this other soda for way too much money. And then you can take that soda and give it to Elizabeth.
And she didn't say that to me because I forgot to buy it.
So yeah, this is a request that is really roundabout, very, what's the word? It's not handed to you.
Sure.
Right? Very little of it has an icon on a map. You have to sort of actually piece together what you're doing here, which is cool. I dig that there's that. I am a little bummed that it is fully will lock you out if you didn't realize, but...
I mean, the request system in general is very much a ancillary aspect. It is only essential here for this idea of what I'm going for a outside of the game meta trophy. Obviously, you get benefits from completing the requests, and there is something we can talk about toward the end when it comes to requests in general. But
yes,
yeah, it's unfortunate, but here we are.
That is a bummer. I am sorry.
It's all right.
Also, I decided this was going to be my hard quiz question this time. I didn't, and I went with a nicer quiz question. I want to lower the bar a little bit because I've been getting mean lately. And one was the drink you get is Odin juice. And when Elizabeth drinks it, she's like, there's like the weirdest things of like, she thinks it tastes like there's like bits in it. And if you look at the description, it says it's filled with minuscule Odin ingredients, which is just a great description.
What are those?
God only knows. What did you do, though, during the day? Because there's a thing we can talk about before we get to the night.
I hung out with Fuka and got her to rank 9, which was tough.
You said no?
Yeah.
I never even got an option, so...
That's fair.
I hung out with Mitsuru, got to rank 2, We went to this place called Wild Duck Burger, and I work here.
I can get us no, I can't get us a discount. I've just been here for a week.
It's very funny timing on this, though. It was super funny to me that I got the hangout at Wild Duck Burger scene the week I was working at Wild Duck Burger. And then when we get back to the house, you have this scene where there's a team meeting. Everybody is around the table. Junpei shows up and is like, I gotta stiff upper lip it. I gotta snap myself out of this, but it's really hard, and he can't do it. And they have Chidori's sketchbook from the hospital, and they decide to look through it, and it's all beautiful pictures of Junpei, which is incredibly sad.
I do love, though, how he's like, you wouldn't be able to understand. These drawings are too obtuse for the normal mind. And it's like, they're just you, my guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're beautiful. It's really cute.
And because previously what she was drawing was like crazy, hectic, right? It was wild art, and now it's just him.
Because these are a surprise to him as far as we can tell. He was not aware she had these drawings of him, and so he's devastated even more. It's really rough for this guy.
Yeah, he bursts into tears. Karamaru whimpers for him. But then he sort of snaps out of it. This was not the reaction I was expecting. He says that it was like Chidori telling him to get over it and live his life, and sending him a message. And so he snaps out of it and he says, you know what? No, I want to fight to get rid of the Dark Hour. I want to do my part. And he gets a new theurgy, which I didn't realize he hadn't gotten yet.
I hadn't either, yeah.
Because everybody else has gotten their theurgies when they get their persona evolution, but this time he got the persona evolution, and then now he gets the theurgy. So, hooray! And it looks really cool. It does a ton of fire damage and also fully restores his health, which is such a lovely little combination of Chidori's mechanics and his mechanics, and yeah.
Did you go, I guess not to spoil too far, but just since we're talking about it, did you go to Tartarus this week?
I did, and I did use it.
You did get to use it.
Really a beautiful animation.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping the gun here just because I did, like, since we're talking about it, this is why, apologies for mentioning it last week, I sort of also conflated the new persona with the new theurgy, but obviously
gun to my head, if you told me asked if he had a theurgy already, I would have been like, yeah, you just got it, right?
Well, if it was to your head, Takaya wouldn't use it because he doesn't know what to do with that thing. But anyway, it is such a gorgeous thing, and it was such a surprise to me that they did something that magnificently touching with one of these. I think it's just such a lovely little to see her embrace him essentially, and to give him that love and health support is so meaningful, and that it's put into the mechanic like this is wonderful.
and there's also Ken's. I also used Ken's new theurgy, which I hadn't used yet.
Yes.
Which protects the whole team, right? It gives everybody this barrier and heals them. And then also has him being like, I won't let anyone else die. So it's like very on point of he got this theurgy because he wants to protect the team in a way he couldn't protect Shinji. He feels guilty about that, which is, again, super cool that they're getting these new powers, and it's not just that they're getting these new powers, but that they're tying it into what happened to them and why they got them.
Yes, yeah. It's a funny balancing act for me because it almost makes me wish there were more of them, to the extent of like, oh, the way they've thought to weave these into the character building is really ingenious, but because there's so few of these that have that much of an impact, it might take it away if there were like 30 of these, so yeah, I like it. Totally. I like these a lot.
So that gets S.E.E.S up to rank 9, so we're now 1 away from S.E.E.S before we hit 10, and then there's a whole second bar for the second half of the game.
Where you end up back in Kanto.
What did you do during the evening?
I thought about Shihira.
I thought about Fuka.
Nice.
Because I'm at 9 with Fuka, but I was not ready for a level up with her today.
Okay, that's fair. I had, before I hung out with Fuka, because I knew I was going to today, I preemptively did some investigating of like, who else am I not at the hangout point with? And that's why I thought about Shihira this evening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sunday. This is the 29th.
Yes.
There's the shopping channel. You're broke still?
I'm still broke.
Want to hear something amazing?
Go for it.
The cost of the item in this shopping channel day was 39,800 yen. I had 40,200 yen.
Oh my god.
So if I had not ended last week working that part-time job,
You wouldn't have been able to get this.
I wouldn't have had enough money to buy this.
That's incredible.
It was razor thin.
It is funny to be this late in the game and struggling with money, but it's because we are not going in as much as I feel like maybe it would want us to.
Yeah, but I also kind of dig it because we talked early on about how the money felt like it actually mattered.
Yes.
And I was like, sure, that's going to probably go away at some point. And it has to some extent, but not like completely.
It gets easier, but I don't think it's ever at the Persona 5 level. Like
Persona 5 at a certain point, you just literally, money doesn't matter anymore.
No, I just bought whatever I needed. It was completely trivial in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and especially in Reload. Reload kind of makes that problem even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Royal.
Before the comments go crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think money is, like you said, evenings are pointless in this game, and if we wanted, or at this point, and if we wanted to go in and just grind for some cash, you could really easily do that. But if you're trying to play it optimally, quote unquote, right? You're trying to play it as efficiently as you could. It is neat that money is still a thing you need to care about to some degree.
Yeah.
And yes, I do agree that, you could just go farm. But the fact that it feels precisely balanced when you don't farm is cool to me.
Totally. Yeah.
Because the alternative is if you don't farm, you don't get anything. Whereas it's like, if I don't farm, I actually have to make choices, which is a really, really... That's a great place to be, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah. We're not at a deficient place. We're not in a place where it feels like we are struggling, but it would be nice to have more, and that's okay. Yeah. That is a reasonable place to be. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So give me your day and your night for the 29th, because it's just a normal day.
Just a normal day. I hung out with Hayase and got him to rank 6 in the day. And then I planted with Aigis in the evening. The only thing I want to call out from that evening, though, is just you also get the little tidbit that Junpei is hanging out with Ryoji in the dorm that night. Yeah.
Yes. And the previous night, Junpei wasn't even available to go to Tartarus, which is why I didn't do it the day before. And then today, you can go talk to him, and he's like, Ryoji's hanging out, but he's going to be gone before midnight, so if you want to go to Tartarus, we can still do that.
Yeah.
And there's a cute little conversation if you go to the door and knock on it. Ryoji's like, hey, Junpei, is that you? I pressed a button and the screen went black. I don't know what's going on. He seems cute. Like kind of a ditz, which is very cute. So during the day for me, I got Kamiki to max rank. So I finished Kamiki, and we'll talk about that later because there's some stuff to talk about with Kamiki. Then the evening I did Tartarus.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did the whole shebang.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was an interesting trip. Should we talk about Tartarus here?
We can, yeah. Because I know we'll have the social links as well, but we don't
have to belabor it.
It's a new area. I didn't go this week, but I know the area. So
a psychedelic rainbow area is very cool style, very very cool visually. Not a pain to navigate necessarily, like pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. Better than that one tech one with all the stairs and the winding turns and the annoyances.
Yeah.
I got 2 new theurgies on this trip. I did a bunch of fusing, and I got 2 new theurgies. So I got one that does slash damage to everyone and has a high chance of crit. That one seems like it freaking rules.
Mm-hmm. That one's good. Yeah.
And then I got another one that was just like... Oh, right. It was the best friends one where the starfish is riding the manta ray, and it just basically gives Tetrakarn and Makarakarn to one enemy, or to one ally. And it's like kind of a waste of a theurgy when Ken's is like that, but everyone.
Oh yeah, it's not useful. It's a funny one, but yeah, it's not.
very cute. It's very cute that they're called best friends, and then they're like the starfish is riding the manta.
Yeah. So, and by starfish, you mean the starfish with a man's face on it, right?
It just has an eye.
Oh, that one. Okay, there's the one
Starmie.
that's just like a man's face. in
That
a
one's
star.
Kaiwan.
There we go. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's not a friendly friend.
No.
Though the manta ray does have a human face on it. This game's weird. I love it.
Probably less weird than the Persona 5 cast of strange guys, but
Sure.
go listen to the show.
I used Mitsuru's new theurgy, Yukari's new theurgy, Ken's, and Junpei's.
Nice.
Like we said, Mitsuru and Yukari's are really cool, but they're also not wildly relevant to their characters necessarily as much. And then Ken's and Junpei's are really, really cool how they're tied in. I have a very fun anecdote to share, which is at one point you get, if you do this certain path or you get the right things, you get Ken's tuxedo outfit.
Okay.
His cosmetic tuxedo outfit. And while we were playing, my wife goes, I swear, if his tuxedo has shorts, like as a joke, his tuxedo has shorts.
Of course it does. Yeah. That kid can't wear full pants. That's ridiculous.
I love that there's no outfit where he's wearing pants.
It's very cute. I mean, but it's exactly like what you would think of as like a little kid in a tuxedo, pretty much. So,
yeah.
It works out really well. It's very funny.
There's also a reveal with when you get the note at the end of this area, which is the final note. There's a request for it, where you find out who's been writing those notes. But we should talk about that later because we want to talk about those notes, and I think we can talk about that as like a character in itself.
That's
later.
fair. Yeah.
It's not a huge reveal. It doesn't matter really. It's just an interesting sort of side thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Tartarus. Let's move on to the last day of the week. Ikoda is doing a lecture, right?
Yes, I wrote down class.
He's kind of weirdly mean about it. He's sort of a jerk. Is mainly what I wrote down because he sucks.
Yeah, that's the vibe we're getting from him these days. Yeah.
I did a ton of shopping this day. I bought a bunch of stuff because I had money finally again. I fused some things. And then I had completed so many requests on my Tartarus trip. And I do want to talk about this. Can we talk about this, please?
Please, go for it.
So I got the last hangout with Elizabeth, which I think you have to complete like 80 requests or something to hit.
Some wild number.
And she asks to visit your room. So spoilers for this scene, because we're going to talk about it. And she realizes that she was asking to visit places that were increasingly more personal to you because she wants to learn more about you and your life, and she's very interested in you. And then she says basically something along the lines of like, I know lots of the times that we've been hanging out, probably it seemed like I don't know anything about the world, and I've been very awkward about that. But even I know what it means to invite a guy to his room. And then she says, so, will you walk me through it? Or something along those lines? And you have the options boldly accept or politely decline, I think.
And you boldly accepted.
Well, first I Googled a lot to be like, what is this choice? And the widely accepted answer to that question is, do you want to have sex with Elizabeth or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much what that is.
It has no bearing on anything outside of like a couple of dialogue boxes. But basically she just asks if you'll have sex with her as like research for understanding the world better. And you can either say yes or no. And if you say yes, it fades to black. And if it says we spent some alone time together. And if you say no, she's just like, okay. And then nothing else changes?
So what's funny is this scene was scripted by a 16-year-old boy. who just based this on his WADA. No, it's really wild that this is just like, yep, that's just where that goes. It is, I think, the pretty understood implication of where this ends up, and it's wild.
It feels like a little bit of a bygone game era.
Yeah.
A product of a bygone era.
Yeah.
Where, like, I think I've talked about this on either the show or a bonus episode about Mass Effect 2 also has that Kelly, I think is her name, Sergeant Kelly or something like that, who's like your ship sort of, she helps you out and keeps track of your notes, and like you can talk to her to catch up on things quickly. And she's not a romanceable character, but if you keep talking to her and doing certain things, then eventually you can get her to give you a lap dance in your room, right? And that's separate from the romanceable characters and doesn't affect that at all and doesn't matter, and you can just do that as a bonus. And it feels like this a product of a bygone era of like when there could just be like a prize that is a sexy lady that doesn't matter to anything else in the game.
Yep.
But you can get that if you want. I don't know. It's just so random.
No, you're right.
I like it. I really do like it from the perspective of like Elizabeth is trying to learn about the world, including that is like very funny to me.
Sure.
It's just also a little bit gratuitous overall.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. It's very much to your point, this feels like a very early 2000s-ish sort of thing where it's like, yeah, that's the end point of this story was just to put that in, and for it to not really have any implications to your character's story otherwise is kind of crazy, especially if you
relationships.
Yeah, there's no blowback there. It's just like, yep, that just happens, and that's strange.
Yeah, I mean, like they could have. The best way I can put it is they could have just made it like be a kiss, and been explicit about that,
and that wouldn't have really impacted.
No, it would have still made sense with what she wants to do with learning about the world. Instead, they like very vaguely leave it open-ended so that it can be as explicit as they want it to be, but can't say. Sure. Is how it ends up feeling. Anyway, it's extremely weird. I'm not dating anyone, so yes, I did it. But again, I Googled a ton beforehand because I was just like, how much does this
research?
Yeah, I was like, how much does this matter? And the answer was just none. So I was like, what does it matter what I say?
Well, what a way to end the week.
Yeah, it was a very wild one. It was very weird end. And then she's like, anyway, I can never come back here and we can never hang out again. And you're like, oh, okay, sure, cool.
Yeah. What is this relationship? It's so strange. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then what'd you do with your actual day?
I got Fuka to max rank.
Congrats.
I'd love to talk about Fuka's at some point because it made me even madder about the direction they took her confidant or her social link line. We can talk about that another time.
Yes.
What did you do during your day?
I X'd out of my notes. I started the social link with Mitsuru. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Starting things out. No, I need to keep pace with you. So figured let me start this one up. Yeah.
Does that mean I could have hung out with her today? I didn't think
I could. Yeah.
Oh no. Maybe
your time.
Maybe starting it is more frequent than her actual hangouts.
Rewind.
Rewind. No, God. Wouldn't that be messed up though if you could do that scene with Elizabeth and then immediately go hang out with your girlfriend or the girl that you like want to be actively dating? It's like, oh, that is
could. That's the thing.
Messed up.
Yeah.
Or would it have been worse if I had like said yes to Fuka in 9 and then did the Elizabeth scene in the same day, went and did Frank 10 with Fuka?
Yeah, you can really make the main character a dirtbag if you want to.
Yeah, you really, it's a role-playing game, I guess.
Anyway.
We get home, and Ryoji is just there. He's just been hanging out, because he's been hanging out a lot. He even says, he's like, hey, I've been here a ton. We haven't run into each other a lot, but I've been here all the time, hanging out with people. And you're like, okay, bud. And then he leaves. And then Igus shows up, and like a dog being like, who was just here? It's like, Ryoji was here. And she says again that he's dangerous. She's really uncomfortable with the fact that he was here, but everyone else sort of brushes it off. There's also a cute little moment where Junpei's like, well, I gotta go do all my homework. And everyone's like, wait, what? Junpei, you're doing your homework now? Man, you really are changed. And then you have this conversation with I.G.S. after everyone else has left, where she says she understands, she reiterates how important you are to her, and she doesn't know why, but all she wants to do is protect you. She says she understands the concept of loss because of you, and that she shouldn't possess the gift of life. She does not possess the gift of life and should not possess it because she is a robot and she needs to do her job killing shadows, and the gift of life would get in the way of that. But because of how important you are, she does understand loss and what that means. So, yeah, that's kind of a nice little, like, it's reiterating how important you are to her.
Yeah, just a little bit of, I guess, table setting for where I.G.S. is at this moment in time after everything they've gone through. Obviously, we've seen her kind of used by a horrible man to try to kill all of her friends and have to reckon with all that. And so a little bit more of just understanding of what her mental state is here.
Yeah. So then she goes off and says some very worrying stuff, where she says that she's a machine, and so therefore no one will grieve for her because she is not alive. Why would we be grieving for her? She says she's unsettled by Ryoji, and that she has to do something because she doesn't want to see them suffer anymore. So basically, I.G.S. is declaring boldly that she's going to take matters into her own hand about Ryoji, and we don't really know what that means.
Well, she does have bullets for hands, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, exactly. What did you do during the evening, though?
Thought about Fuka.
I thought about Mitsuru.
This show is making us sound really creepy. I'm not going to lie.
I know, right? It's very unsettling, but that's just all you get to do in the evenings anymore.
Sorry, everyone.
And then finally, this week ends with a call with Mitsuru in her room. She calls somebody theoretically part of the Kirijo group, right? We don't know who specifically, but it's calling. Again, this is with the sort of thing where she's talking around things. She's not saying exact things, but we can pretty definitively understand what's happening and what she's calling about. So she calls somebody at the Kirijo group about Chidori and says that she would like a full autopsy to identify the body, to find out if she has relatives or whatever. She also says that she doesn't want to sweep it under the rug. She would like to take full responsibility for this. She doesn't want to just make it this sketchy thing. But then, gasp, they tell her that the body has transmogrified, which is the term, if I remember correctly, that they've used for when a person turns into a coffin during the dark hour. So transmogrified is like a word that means a real thing, but in the context of the game, they have used transmogrified to mean turn into a coffin. So that's what I assume they're saying is the body turned into a coffin during the dark hour. And then she says, keep this confidential, don't tell anyone until they know more. And so we get this little tease of like, we don't really know what's going on with Chidori's body, but Mitsuru was trying to take responsibility for what happened and then said, oh no, something's going on with her body and we don't know what's happening. So yeah, we're going to find out more soon, I assume. It's probably nothing.
Nothing ever gets picked up there. Wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. So that's the week. Like I said, we've got a normal week next week of, I think it's just the 1st to the 7th. Is that right?
Yes, we're just doing the normal days.
Great. 1st to the 7th, real easy. Lines up with the calendar nicely. And the 2nd, I believe, is going to be the full moon, whatever that means. We don't know yet.
Yeah. I would say I believe we're sticking to the normal weeks going forward. I'll double check to confirm. Obviously, there will be some time because of the holidays where we will probably batch record at some point just to make things easier for our lives, but we'll keep you updated.
We did that with the first season as well. We took a couple weeks off or whatever, so we'll probably do something with that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some max ranks though, because we got a few minutes still. So I want to talk about the 2 evening max ranks in Kamiki, because I just finished Kamiki, but you finished Kamiki a little early. Probably most people have finished Kamiki around this time in the game. Let's talk about the evening folk first, though, because I think those are happening earlier, and I want to start with Tanaka.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because we can probably clear them up in like 2 sentences.
Exactly. What the hell is... Tanaka is the definition of, there's not enough to do at night. I guess give them something?
This guy just kind of over and over tells you how good he is, even though he's telling you he's a terrible man, and you just kind of go, okay.
There's no bonding.
No.
There's no character development. There's no character arc until rank 10 when suddenly he's like, I'm a good person now or something. Never talk to me again. Goodbye.
But he still has sleazeball vibes.
Is
important to remember. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just as like, it feels like filler. It is funny, but it's not funny 10 times in a row.
No, it is definitely one of my least favorite. It kind of is just there. I do definitely think you're seeing the learning process of how to make the day and night matter in a way that it maybe they didn't realize it needed to as much, or that there could be a balance consideration here to some degree, because obviously the evening is also where you put the combat mechanics so heavily and pretty exclusively. So, I get that there are growing pains here.
I will say I am tickled by the different scams that they have him explain every single time you go to him.
Yes.
It's not like the individual writing is bad. It's funny scenes. It's him being a terrible person, and it's very funny. But when you call these like social links where you're supposed to be growing together, the sentence before him is always like, I think I understand him a little better now. But it's not like you're learning anything new about him ever.
No, I totally agree with you. I think, the stories in and of themselves are not, they are enjoyable in the sense that they depict this gross, awful con man. But if you weren't there and instead there was a cardboard cutout of your character with a speech bubble that said, boss, I agree. Yeah. The relationship would be the same. There would be no difference.
And then he just leaves and he's like, I will never see you again. Goodbye. Keep buying my stuff on the TV for way too much money.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough out there.
It is. I would definitely say of the evening ones, Mutatsu is far and away the more interesting one.
Yes.
That said, it's not like wildly fascinating, I think, in comparison to some of the others, but it is, you do definitely learn about this guy, and there is definitely, I would say, a relationship that forms between the two of you to some degree.
Yeah, Mutatsu reminds me a little bit of, I think what you're saying is right. You have a relationship with this guy, and you have this sort of connection with him that's interesting. His story about his son, he lost his family because he was working too much, and now this is the thing I really like about him. He has a really distinct character arc throughout this. And sort of your role in this is weird, that you're a kid in a bar with this monk who's drinking, and you're always meeting him there, and all you do is talk while he's got this character arc going. But at the same time, so like the circumstances are odd, but the actual arc he goes through, who he is as a character, what his history is, his story with his family, all that stuff is genuinely cool and good.
Yes, you are functionally a sounding board for him.
Yeah.
Really, and a stand-in for his son, and that kind of helps him realize what's important. And so in that sense, your dynamic is not very interesting or complex or evolves in I think a way that is exciting for you to explore through the dialogue options. But yes, to your point, where he goes is at least interesting to hear about, and kind of to understand the mess that he's put himself in, how he's trying to dig himself out, how clearly this is someone who has dealt with some, maybe struggles of addiction or things of that nature, is kind of trying to understand his place in life. All that sort of stuff is, I think, an interesting exploration of an identity. It again, it's one that it doesn't necessarily matter that you are the person talking to him.
Yeah, but I did like Mutatsu's. I thought that was a scene that I genuinely wanted to learn more or see more of, and learn more about this character, and I was happy with how it ended, right? I thought it was a very nice sort of growth throughout that.
I will say this was just came to me in the moment, so I don't know how fully formed this is, but I do kind of like that both of these, even though I like Mutatsu's way more. I don't know how it was for you. Every time I go through them, I'm like, this feels a little off. To your point of like, yeah, my character shouldn't be here. Like, I shouldn't be in this bar with this monk. I shouldn't be talking to this con man out in the middle of the square. Like, these are not things my character should be doing. And there's a little bit of seediness to both of them that I think, like, the mix of the music and the staging kind of works really well with these, but it doesn't really go beyond that. I just, like, as I was thinking about, especially Mutatsu with, like, the music and everything, there's a lot of moments there that are really sad and kind of like, this shouldn't be how a kid is spending his evenings in high school.
Yeah. It also, the whole Tanaka thing makes me think less of the protagonist, if that makes sense. Like, he just gets fully scammed, and you just gotta go with it.
Yeah.
And then you gotta encourage this horrible person to get points for this relationship you don't want to be in.
It's silly. But
I will say I think both of these scenes suffer by being in the same location every single time.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution there would be, but the scenes that move around, the links that move around and go to different places, it's the same with Kamiki. I think Kamiki suffers from being in the same exact location every single time, but that one makes a little more sense because it feels like a little bit of a, like a thing you're doing with this person who can only come to this park, and that's your only opportunity to see them. Let's transition into that, and let's talk about Kamiki. So Kamiki is the person dying the young man who's terminally ill that you meet at this shrine. I'm a little torn on this whole thing because I think that it is a little repetitive and a little slow in how this story develops, but also I think that this social link has some of the best conversations about the themes of the game of any of the ones we've done so far. Really interrogating death and what it means to what you leave behind, the people you leave behind, what you mean to them, like all this stuff that is so core to what's happening in the main storyline and so core to the themes of the game are really interrogated on the nose, but still in very interesting ways. And, And I'm a little torn on that just because, like, I wish it was delivered in a slightly more interesting vehicle, but the conversations themselves are really, really interesting to have.
No, totally. I get what you mean. I would say this one, certainly of the ones we've spoken about, lands in the top few for me.
So far for me, yeah, too.
But I don't disagree with you in the sense of it suffers from, I think, what all of them do in terms of the repetitiveness, in terms of needing to stretch to fill 10. But that said, the ways that it does intersect with what this game is about work really well and have a lot of... I think let you approach some of the material in interesting ways, especially because when you think about, we've talked a lot about how dialogue choices for a lot of these characters are about affirming them, no matter how terrible their behavior is. Here, a lot of it, like sometimes the conversational answers are, you try to give him the appeasing answer and he doesn't want that. Like I remember early on, there's a few I tried to give and he's bitter, rightly so, because he's dying, but it's like, don't coddle me. Like, this is my life and it sucks. Like, you don't understand this just because you're trying to give me a platitude. Like, there is an interesting friction that develops as a result of how different this one is that I like.
Yeah. And the final scene has this really, really interesting message, right? Of he's written this story, and the story is this almost sort of parable about this alligator friend that eats his bird friend, right? I think is the animals. And the way his story ends is the alligator is so distraught about eating his friend that he cries until he drowns himself and makes a giant lake, which then grows a giant tree, which has all this fruit, and then that becomes this hub for the animals in the forest, which is all very, it's very old school fairy tale vibes to it, where it's not like a quote unquote story. It's a message, right? It's a moral, and the meaning of that is really interesting. It's you don't get to choose what you leave behind or what people took from your life, right? You aren't there to decide that. What your life meant is not necessarily important to you. It's important to the people after you. And that's a really fascinating way to look at all of this, and gives him peace, right? And yeah, it's just I wasn't into the animal story part of this.
I get that.
Until the end, and I was like, oh, that actually brought it to a really nice sort of spot.
Yeah, it's funny because it does go on a sort of a similar journey for me as some others, where it's like I really found this very interesting at the beginning and was really emotionally invested in it. I started to waver as that animal story came more into it, and then where it wraps up, I'm like, okay, no, this worked really well. I do think you probably could have cut like 2 of those out and it would have been fine, but
boy,
yeah,
metaphor.
Really what? Yeah.
I said, boy, metaphor. The first time I loaded up metaphor and it was like, oh, the social links only have 8 ranks. That's a little short. And then I played them and I was like, oh, there's no filler in these. That's great.
They're so good. They're really great stories. But anyway, we don't have time for that right now. I do really, really like this one. I think, to your point of the way it intersects with the themes of the game, I think it does really well. And I think is obviously also pretty devastating if you've ever experienced, living with or knowing someone who has gone through that sort of like they are dying situation, is obviously a heavy burden to live with. And I think they do a pretty good job of depicting not the good and the bad of it, but like the gamut of emotions someone like that would run through, because you do see him in somewhat happier moods. You see him devastated. You see him pissed off. You see him in
deep pain.
Yeah. You get to see
him calm after he accepts that he's not getting any more treatment, which is really interesting.
Yeah. You get to see him as a ghost.
Yeah. So let's talk about the end.
Sure.
He vanishes.
He does.
What? Huh?
We should revisit it later. I'll say that.
Okay.
Because there is something there. I believe there is a running. I don't know if it's a theory or confirmed, so forgive me for those who might know better. I believe there is a generally accepted understanding of what this means.
Okay.
But we will...
I don't know. I like didn't know at all what it would mean. I think the idea of what you just said is interesting to me, of like maybe he was dead all along and it's not about moving on, but it's like
not even
he was restless. And
sure. I mean, that's a good one.
Spirit.
That's a good one.
Because he was at a shrine.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. To me, the one that I saw as one that I like, a version of this that I saw discussed, and I guess full spoilers for this, and whoever out there, however you interpret it, let us know. Someone that I was reading, and a lot of people seem to agree with, was the idea that he dies after the 9th. And the 10th one is kind of like a spiritual conversation, or like a final goodbye conversation. So, because I think 8 or 9 is when he starts to get really sick or whatever. And so the idea is that he died after that. And then the 10th one is just you resolving this relationship in however, what form that took.
Either way, whatever it is, real cool. Just sort of curveball at the end there.
Or he's God and moved on into an incredible after. But yes, it's a bit of a wild ending in comparison, obviously, to any of the other social links that we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on from this also reminds me of a thing I wanted to bring up really quick.
Go for it.
Did you ever catch when you're in the request screen with Elizabeth, she just, how the shopkeepers and the people that have menus will just have little lines of dialogue?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this line of dialogue? I wrote it down because I was fascinated by it. Give me a second. Oh, yeah. So if you talk to Elizabeth and have her just go into her request screen and just wait a little bit, one of the things that she mentions is that she has a younger brother that maybe you'll meet one day. And my immediate brain was like, Jose.
Oh, I don't know if I've clocked that. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the younger brother will come up another time. But immediately I was like, is Jose her younger brother? Anyway.
We'll have to find out.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all we got this week. I'm glad we talked about some more max ranks because we have a few more to talk about still. But this was a good sort of dip in a week that we could dig into these a little bit more. Yes. Obviously, next week, the 1st through the 7th, we're going to be talking about whatever the full moon is. I guess I should give a prediction on that.
Go for it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I genuinely don't know what to expect. I think if I had to clock it now with a crazy theory, right, is that there's not going to be like there's a shadow. Aigis is going to go rogue on the full moon and like kidnap Ryoji or something like that. And people are Fuka's going to wake you up and say, something's going on, we got to get to it. And that's going to do something that awakens Ryoji to make him remember that he's actually whatever he is. And then that will set the pins in motions to be the next full moon, something else will happen. So that's my crazy theory, is that Aigis is going to do something that kicks the next phase of this into gear or is related to this getting next phase into gear. My theories are Strega will not come up or will only be like them observing what's going on. It's not going to be an encounter with Strega. And I don't think that there's going to be like there's a shadow, we have to rush and go to the shadow that has shown up. I don't know. That's my wild guess. I think that could be... I feel less confident with that guess than some of my previous guesses. I'll say that much.
Okay. Well, we won't have to wait long to find out.
We will not have to wait long to find out. Just a couple days. Did we have any final questions or comments or anything? Or was it mostly just people wondering what I thought was going to happen?
We'll leave it there, I think, for the most part. Dan did write in, just, in timeliness, said, hope you guys enjoyed your respective Thanksgivings and got some good gaming in. Talked about how they went to their in-laws and brought Xbox and a portable monitor, and it was fun to grind through Tartarus on the couch while enjoying family time and football. I just asked if we have any games in particular we like to catch up on during the holidays.
Metaphor, honestly. I've been not playing that as much as I want to. That and I've been playing more Balatro.
That's fair. I play Balatro too much. It's a problem. Yeah, this holiday specifically has been Metaphor. In general, I look at Christmas break as my big like holiday gaming focus, less so Thanksgiving timing wise. For Christmas time, it's usually like one or two things that I missed from the year before. I really try to make a focus to like knock a small game out in that week, like a 10 to 12 hour indie. I have to beat one in that week just to have like a little sense of accomplishment. But yeah,
nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about that then. Let's finish up with a pop quiz.
Hit me.
I got an easy one. Well, not an easy one. Not necessarily an easy one. Junpei gets a new theurgy this week. What's the name of it? Simple and clean. I'm not asking you about doors in Kyoto.
It's hard to let it go. You said simple and clean. You can't reference Kingdom Hearts and not think I'm gonna start going into the lyrics of that song.
Fine. That's reasonable. So yeah, what's the name of Junpei's new theurgy? That's the question. Let us know in the comments. Dornology@gmail.com. You can send an email there. You can go to youtube.com/Dornology. You can message us. I'm at Tom R. Marks. He's at JM Dornbush. You can go to patreon.com/takeyourtime and subscribe if you want, and then leave us a comment there on the latest bonus episode or whatever. Leave us questions for the upcoming bonus episode where we're going to talk about the games of 2024, because we're going to just talk about Game of the Year stuff and kind of the conversation around that, and probably we'll talk about Metaphor within it because that game's really good. But we'd love to hear some thoughts from folks. So if you want to get in on that, patreon.com/takeyourtime is the place to do it. But even if you don't want to support the show financially or can't or whatever, we do not blame you. We love you for listening and watching all the same. If you want to share the show, like, subscribe, that sort of stuff, it does really help us out, and it's a great way to support without throwing down some cold hard cash. So thank you very much, no matter how you decide to support us. The 1st to the 7th next week?
Yes.
Full moon? Tom's crazy prediction comes true word for word? Who knows? What?
It's time to go to bed.
right, Morgana. Jonathan, anything else for the people?
Sanctuary is probably my least favorite of the Kingdom Hearts theme songs. It's still really good, but like when the beat drops on that might be my favorite moment. Everyone will know what I'm talking about. Like when it starts to go into the bow, bow, and it's like my heart's a battleground. Just perfect. Oh, gets me every time. They're going up the staircase. You know what I'm talking about out there. Yeah.
My favorite is the Gummy Ship theme. Anyway, goodbye everyone. We will see you later.